All right, what up, people? It's your boy Chig from Gooner Eagle coming to you one more time for episode 12 of the Gooner Eagle episode. And it's really just a show for me to talk about a few things today. It's been a big footballing week. Big things have happened. Big things are going on. I figured I would structure this show very simply. I'm going to talk about thoughts about the game yesterday, and generally where I feel Arsenal can go from here. And you'll see how I get on in terms of discussing Big Sam and him losing his job. So first things first, let's talk about Arsenal's amazing footballing week. Um, I I did say in the Forest game, and I weirdly had criticism by that as well. I guess you ain't anybody in this game until you be criticised for a positive comment. I did say during an episode of the essentially of a review show I did after the Forest game that I felt like something was starting to happen. If you haven't checked it out already, go back and listen. And it just feels like ever since, I would probably say PSG, like something was happening. Now, that might sound like a weird comment coming from me because I did have a lot of criticism about the way we played against PSG, and I still stand by that criticism. I felt like that PSG game, for whatever reason, felt, particularly for at least 60 minutes, it just felt like they were just slicing through us like butter. Pulled out an unlikely draw out of that game, a game where really we should have lost, not because particularly because we got outperformed. I don't necessarily think we, it's not as though they were so amazing, like it was like a Basel or something, and we managed to kind of snatch and grab something because they were that much better. But it was just that we never even looked like turning up for a good 60 minutes of that match, and somehow, some way, bumped a draw. And I said at the very start of that game in my preview show for that game, I actually said that I felt like a draw would be a decent result. I just felt like ultimately, if we could get something out of that game, it would give us some confidence going into the rest of the tournament. And it really seems like since then, something has started to happen. Whether it's from the Hull game to the Forest game to the amazing Chelsea game, where I thought we played some amazing football, probably our best football of the season, where it just seemed like not only because you could argue in the Forest game and in the my brain's gone, in the Forest game and the Hull game, there were individual performances or there were sections of the team that outperformed the others. Whereas the Chelsea game was probably one of the most well-rounded performances I'd seen in 10 years, where barely anybody got even a 7. I felt everybody had almost exceeded what they like, just exceeded their performances. It just clicked. It felt like something was happening, and in the end, 3-0 flattered them. It flattered them because it should have been 5. It should have been 6. We sliced and diced through them, and I was so proud. I was so proud. And I guess when it comes to Arsenal, there's always this thing whereby when they have delivered a performance like that, everybody gets a bit nervous about the game that follows. And the game that followed in this particular instance was Basel. Yeah. And going into the Basel game, I just felt like there may be a potential, and I kind of readied myself, and I guess readied the listeners for it. I just felt like it's possible that there could be a dip in energy levels, in performance levels, just based on the exertions that we'd given through the previous game. And in some respects, I would probably say in some respects, other than the finishing, it was better. And let me explain why. That might sound unusual because I'm going to use the word in inverted commas here, only beat them 2-0. Having said that, it was such a strange game to watch in one respect, because at no point in the game did Basel ever look like threatening. Not really. Bar one opportunity that end of the game where one guy looked like he was through on goal. We just literally went to sleep. He went through on goal, and Ospina in a one-on-one situation, he's that guy, and you're not going to breach through him on a one-on-one situation. He's always been good, even in his French league days. He's always been very good at one-on-ones. So, shock horror, that person did not score that one-on-one. To be fair to that player, it was a slightly difficult angle. He wasn't exactly centre for it. And then there was another opportunity that just before the bar, and Ospina is not exactly the tallest guy, so he had to kind of adjust himself and reach the ball, and that was a really good save. But other than those two opportunities, they never really looked like forging out an opportunity for themselves. Going into the game, I'm not going to lie to you, I hold my hands up, completely forgot about the whole Czech Ospina situation. Other than that, pretty confident I got 10 out of the 11 right in terms of the lineup, which I'm kind of proud of myself, because guessing an Arsenal lineup these days is not the easiest task. But I guess there was no real need to change it. I know that a lot of people felt like, Santi had played a lot of games. He's 33. He may seek the option of resting Ramsey and playing resting Santi and playing El Nene there. Some people even thought that Monreal might rest and Gibbs might play, because Gibbs played really well in his cameo against Chelsea. All interesting, valid points. I never felt that was going to happen. Wenger is the type of person who will play the team as much and as often as he can, particularly if it's a team that he feels is working, even if that means resting, or I should say resting, benching his £35 million player. So I felt like there was always that he would. Sorry, there was always a chance. There was always a likelihood that he would stay with the same team. So that's why I went with the 11 I went with. The Czech thing was just my stupid oversight. So going into the game, I was quietly confident, but it always depends on what Arsenal you get. And man, oh man, what I did not anticipate, a fantastic Arsenal, but we got an absolutely on fire Theo Walcott. I've seen Theo Walcott play for 10 years now, and he's had one really good season where he had that really horrible knee injury, where he was banging in goals for fun and banging in assists mainly for fun. He had a season when that prick was there, Robin Van Persie, when he was there, and also the season where it was the infamous 2-0 sign that he gave to Tottenham fans that I instantly made me love Theo just for that. Those were the two standout seasons that he had. And every other season, let's be honest, has been mediocre for someone who should have fulfilled his great potential. And I said it in my preview video, and I'll say it again. The man has God-given speed and God-given ability. I don't necessarily think, or has up until this season anyway, I don't think he's necessarily proven to have the best footballing brain, or he's not exactly he's not a flair player, but his God-given talent is his speed. And when Theo feels like finishing, he can finish, as yesterday demonstrated. Him and Alexis, they were on another level of some psychic shit. I don't know what was going on with those two. They were linking up. Literally every decent opportunity was either Theo or it was Alexis. It weren't really coming from anyone else. The first goal came from Alexis going to the byline. He crossed it in. Of all people, I had to do like a double take. Like, is that Theo? Let's score that header. Rolls up from nowhere. I think it was the only one in the penalty area. Bullet header from the cross. And I was like, wow. Such a good header. Go watch it if you've not seen it. Yeah. I was so proud of him. And then there was that. And then the second one, the second one was also Theo as well, where I think it was Alexis that set him up. Basically, Theo just used his pace. He was in a slightly bit of an awkward angle, got to the corner of the penalty area, blasted it into the corner. The keeper, to be honest, you watch the goal again, how the keeper doesn't get something on it. Like a decent keeper would have saved it. But not to take away from Theo's goal. I thought it was excellently taken. It went off the post and in, showed great pace and great desire for the goal. Really and truthfully, I'm disappointed for him that he didn't get his hat trick. He had a couple of opportunities for a hat trick, which unfortunately for him, he missed. In fact, the opportunities he did miss were actually slightly easier than than the second goal he scored, to be perfectly honest. But man, we need to bottle this Theo and carry it for the rest of the season. I don't know if he's had a rollicking of Wenger. I don't know if I said it to Mems. I said it on Twitter yesterday, where he looks like he is like the omission from the Euro 2016 squad hurt him. And this season, to be perfectly honest, people forget, really, from this season, he's been playing very well. Against Liverpool, all right, everyone was really angry about that Liverpool result. People forget the man scored in that game. He has been quietly doing his thing and banging in goals. I know at the start of the season he came out and all of a sudden declared that he's not a striker after all. He's a right winger, and that kind of made him look like a bit of a joke. But fair play. He's doing well on the right-hand side, and he's showing he's undroppable at the moment. And his form should worry someone like Alex. And I don't mean Owobi in that. I mean Alex Chamberlain. I would be worried because the way I see it is I'm hoping that Campbell comes back and has some sort of future still at Arsenal. Long shot, but I'm still hoping. Wenger likes to fit Ramsey somewhere. And he doesn't particularly like dropping Santi. So Ramsey's probably going to sit on that right-hand side at some point. So you start to think, well, where do you fit Alex? He's not a left winger. Every time he plays on that left wing, he has a horrible game. I hope to God they don't think all of a sudden, oh, let's try and accommodate Ox and put him on the left-hand side. He's not a left winger. So if I'm Ox, I'm worried about my place in the team. I thought Alexis, in a weird way, played just as good at Chelsea, but without the finishing. He was a constant bugbear for that Basel team. He was harassing them and harassing them and harassing them. The only time when Basel got a bit of peace was when Theo came off, and that's why I thought it was a bit of a shame that Theo didn't stay on longer. Maybe 10 minutes longer to get his hat-trick. I think he was subbed off on the 60th minute. So it was a bit of a shame that he didn't go on and get the hat-trick. But Man, oh man, it was such a good performance. I know I predicted 2-0. I didn't predict that 2-0, though. I'm not even going to take that victory. I'm not even going to start to boast like, oh, I got it right or any of that kind of crap. Because I thought the 2-0 would be more of a kind of a tired, we've given a lot to Chelsea. We might just stumble over the line. And I know people who listen to this, especially people who aren't Arsenal fans, are going to start to suggest, well, it's only Basel. Let's have it right. This is the same Basel team that's beaten United a couple of times, beaten a Chelsea side, and beaten a Liverpool side. Oh, by the way, all those victories were in England. So this is a decent side, albeit a side that does have a habit of losing their big players, one of which we've got in El Nene. A lot of the match was dedicated to the build-up of Xhaka versus Xhaka. I actually thought it was one of Xhaka's more quiet games. So I guess it really segues me into the player ratings and how would I rate them all. So I'll go into the player ratings. I think Ospina, I think he did well on the whole. Had one dodgy moment in the first half where I was a bit like, oh. But other than that, I thought he recovered pretty well. Made a couple of really good saves. The man is so good in a one-on-one situation. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I thought he was really good. On the right-hand side, on our right back, I will give Bellerin. Oh, he supported Theo really well. I actually thought he was another player who did really well. Supported Theo really, really well, actually. I'll give him a 7.5. I thought he was particularly good. Mustafi, what a find Mustafi is. Even at 35 million, let's face it, it's not easy to buy a defender these days. You ask Man City about that with Mangala. Remember, Man City drew 3-3 against Celtic yesterday. It is not easy to spend money on a defender these days, and it looks like, touch wood, we found a real gem. We found the missing piece to our puzzle. For years we've been thinking to ourselves, if only we can buy someone who is just as good as Koscielny. And I think whilst he's not there yet, I think he has the potential. Remember, this man's only 24. He has the potential to be just as good as Koscielny. I'm so impressed with this guy. And as someone on Arsenal Fan TV said, RIP Mertesacker, because you are not getting back in the squad. No, you're not getting back in the starting lineup anyway. Wow, so 7 out of 10. I think Koscielny playing the best football of his career. It does worry me. With every month that he doesn't sign a contract, it makes me nervous. I hope that it's all a formality and we do begin to start signing some of these people that we need to sign contracts, like a Bellerin, like an Ozil, like a Sanchez, like a Koscielny. He is one of our key players. He is our captain elect, and as far as I'm concerned, and plays like it this season. I'll give him a 7.5 as well. I thought he was particularly good out of the two centre backs. On the left hand side, Monreal, Mr. Dependable. What can I say about him? I feel like I'm boring you guys whenever I talk about Monreal because there's not really much you can say outside of the norm. He's Mr. Dependable. He is what he is. 7 out of 10. On the right hand side, Theo, quite easily, and I don't think it will be much of a surprise when I say this. I've heard people say that Sanchez is man of the match, and whilst I see their point, I don't agree with it. I thought Sanchez missed way too many chances for me to realistically consider him to be man of the match. So for that reason, I've got to give him for that reason, I've got to give Theo 9 out of 10. I thought he was really good. To be honest, he'd be closer to 10 if he got his hat trick. Easily, I'll go as far as to say it, the best performance I've ever seen Theo have in an Arsenal shirt. 100%. In the middle, I thought Xhaka had one of his quiet games. Didn't do anything wrong. It just wasn't a midfield battle against Basel, really. At least not from the center, for the center of midfield. It wasn't one that relied on him to put his foot in. I thought Xhaka was perfectly competent without being particularly influential. So for that reason, I'll give him a 6, which makes it sound like he's worse than he is. But hopefully it should put into perspective what I give when I give Santi the same mark. It just wasn't a midfield battle. And I think with Santi had a weird game yesterday because for as good performances as we did have around the team, Santi had a couple of passes that went astray every now and again. And I don't know, he does look tired. And it does play into what I said in the preview, which was that, you know, I felt like he may come out and he may seek the opportunity to play El Nene. He does prefer that partnership of El Nene and Xhaka. Remember, he's all about pairs and partnerships. It just wasn't one of Santi's better games. I don't feel like I will give him a 5, though, because I don't think he was that bad. But I'll give him a 6. On the far left, Iwobi was Iwobi. His typical influential, quietly going about his business until he does something spectacular self. The kid is going to be a good player, like a really good player. I don't know if I can give him 7. I'll give him 6.5. I thought it was a slightly quieter game, but whenever he was called upon, he did something that good. And I've got to give him a 6.5 for that reason. Ozil, same thing, really. He did have a couple of chances in the first half where he did influence things again in his own little quiet way. Oh, gosh, actually, yeah, there were a couple of chances that he gave to Sanchez. Oh, for that reason, forget what I said. I'll give him a 7. I thought he played quite well. And then you got the main man, Sanchez. Sanchez should have had a hat-trick yesterday. Like, quite easily. And to be honest with you, I'm being somewhat conservative in how many goals he should have had. I thought he missed too many chances, to be fair. But that was the only thing he did wrong. He just didn't finish enough. Having said all that, great performance from Sanchez, all in all. It really was. And for that reason, I will give him 7 out of 10. If he'd banged in 2 of those goals, he would have got a 9 and probably would have got man of the match. Or he would have made a strong challenge for it anyway. But I think he missed too many chances for me to give him more than a... It doesn't quite feel like if he scored a goal, he would have got an 8. But as it is, I think a 7 is probably appropriate. In terms of the subs, he made his usual subs. He brought El Nene on. He brought Ox on for Theo. And I thought Ox... Oh, I tell you what, Ox frustrates me because he played really well against Forest, to be fair. And there was an opportunity that Ox had in the second half where all he needed to do was just show a bit of composure and find a player. And I think Ozil and Sanchez were the 2 players that were available in the box. And for some weird reason, I don't know what he was doing. It's like he panicked and he hit it into a player. I still have this misplaced, misguided belief that he'll be a great player. I'm still holding hope beyond hope. You know, I gave up on Theo and then look what he did yesterday. So I'm still holding hope beyond hope he'll be a good player. But man, that frustrated me yesterday. I'll give him a... I think it'd be harsh to give him a 4, so I'll give him a 5. I don't think he did that well. I thought El Nene was good, though. Shored things up. Just when it looked like Basel was starting to get on the ball a little bit, towards the end of the second half, where we looked not necessarily tired, but I think we kind of just thought, all right, let's put this back down into first gear. We don't need to go after another goal if it's not going to come. And I think because of that, we just shored it up a little bit. And I thought he just gave us that reassurance, that control. It's El Nene. You know what El Nene does. For a £5 million player, the man is such a good player. I'll give him a 6 out of 10. 6.5. 6 out of 10. I'll give him a 6 out of 10. And Gibbs, he came on from Monreal. Did what he did. I actually thought he was all right, actually, for what he did when he came on. I'll give him a 6 out of 10 as well. Went with the same team against Chelsea. Made a weird sub with Theo. I would have liked to have seen Theo stay on for a little bit longer. And I feel like things went flat. Well, I never thought I'd say this. I think things went flat when Theo came off. I would have liked to have seen Theo have 10 minutes more. But that's probably more of a bugbear than a tactical thing. I think probably I'd give him a 7 out of 10. I thought he did well enough, you know? So onwards and upwards, what do I think essentially all this means? That is the question. I feel like we are on the verge of something. You know, something is happening here, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I feel like something is happening. Whether it will turn into something is the big question. With us, it's all about consistency. It's all about making sure we win the tricky ties. And we're in the part of the season where we've got a run of games where we should win. The big key word in that sentence is should. And that's what worries me. I don't want our intensity to drop because we've got these run of games. Our next 5 or 6 games, we should win without breaking a sweat. And that's what makes me nervous. Because if we stupidly lose or stupidly drop points in a couple of those games, going into a typically bad month for us in November, nervous November as I call it, we've got United, we've got Spurs, and we've got PSG. The United game is away, by the way. So these are games that I don't want us to go into without any confidence, because I believe I know Spurs are playing well, but if we really focus and do our thing, we can beat Spurs at home. We can. If we really focus and do our thing, we can beat PSG and be in a strong position to top the group. We can. But it's all about carrying our momentum. I don't want us to have just played these 2 games. Arsenal playing the right way for once. And, it messes up. And you know what? I take it back and I give Wenger credit. This is where I give Wenger credit. The number 9 thing, I'll be honest, I was one of the people who said it didn't work. I didn't understand why he kept persisting on it. I now see what he's doing. One of my biggest bugbears with Arsenal is that somewhere along the way, we've stopped moving the ball quickly. We've gone into this pedestrian, and it pains me to say this, almost Roberto Martinez Everton football type thing, where we're kind of doing sideways passes without any real purpose, without any real intensity, just sideways passing, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Arsenal, the old, would not only just do the sideways passes, but we'll do the sideways passes because our counter-attack, we've either just narrowly missed or the defender somehow made a tackle. We're just trying to basically tire these guys out, and we're just trying to play football. But in the last, I would say 2, maybe 3 years, somehow our pace and our intensity has gone. And really, if you think about it, and if you really want to date when all that started, as much as this will sound really harsh to the person, I'm going to stick with this comment. That started with Giroud. It did. It started with Giroud. Suddenly, we start instead because Giroud is not fast enough to hit those, to do those quick attacks for. Because even Van Persie had a way about he had a way of moving. So he always gave you that option. His movement was always so good that you were still able to work the ball quickly to him without there being too much of a problem. And that's where people like Theo were able to play well off Van Persie, and various other people were able to play, where Song was able to play well off Van Persie because his movement, man, but you could never take away that his movement was so good. Giroud's movement is not that good. He's a very static player. The one thing he's very good at doing is he's very good at holding the ball up. The problem is that when most of your attributes are holding the ball up, you're not really moving in any particular direction very quickly. So because of that, our general play has to slow down in order to suit the main striker. By putting Sanchez up there, you now give us a level of unpredictability. And I say that because if you think about the ways that Sanchez plays, what he does is he is a nuisance. The way he harasses the defense, the way he attacks the defense, the way he constantly bugs and runs and bugs and tackles and kicks, and he's a gnat. That's what he is. But the way he plays also coincidentally allows us to play well off the ball. So when a defender plays from the back, or when a defender has the ball in the back, you've got a Sanchez running, putting pressure, running, putting pressure. Now, because Sanchez is doing it, Iwobi's doing it. And because Iwobi's doing it, now Theo's doing it. And if you have a three-prong attack of very quick players who are constantly harassing the defense, putting pressure on the defense, waiting for that mistake, you get a Cahill mistake happening. Because suddenly now the defenders are nervous. They don't know what to do. And that's actually the genius of playing Sanchez up front, which I didn't quite comprehend and understand before. When you play a Sanchez up front, you may not necessarily get the best finishing, because if we're honest, he's not. Yesterday showed finishing is not necessarily his number one forte. But what you are going to get is industry out of him. You're going to get someone who constantly harasses, bugs the defense, presses high up, puts real pressure on that defense. And because of it, the defense becomes nervous. They don't know what to do. They second guess their original move. And because of it, now the comments you're hearing, particularly when you watch things like the Gooner talk, you watch things like Burkout Wonderland, you watch things like Arsenal Fan TV, you watch things like Gooner Rumble, the general consensus among everyone on there, whether you're a Wenger in, Wenger out, whether you're a negative person, positive person, the general consensus is we're playing a different way. We're playing a different way because we've got a different striker up front. And that's what I've realized now. And that's where you have to give Wenger a lot of credit, because against our judgment, against our better judgment, he's doing something that, let's be honest, none of us really agreed with, but now makes a lot of sense. Because even as much as I want Perez to get time, and I was a bit disappointed as well yesterday that he didn't get at least 10 minutes to show what he could do. I get putting the idea of putting a Sanchez up front now. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense because even if you don't necessarily have a focal point on there, we've never really needed a focal point the way we play football. Not really. And I know that sounds insane, but even with Henry used to drift, usually to the left-hand side, but used to drift and work at that defense and drift and work that defense. And the only time all of a sudden we changed that was when that Adebayor came in. And then when Van Persie came in, Van Persie was another. I can't believe I actually called him by his name. Van Persie was another one who liked to drift in between the lines and arc his run and lose his player. He wasn't quick, but his movement was so intelligent that defenders couldn't pick him up. But then again, that changed again when Giroud came in. Because the one thing I would say about that idiot Adebayor is at least every now and again he showed a bit of pace. Giroud has no pace. So because of that, we have to slow our game down to suit a Giroud. And that's the problem. So, and because his movement, whilst I don't necessarily think it's as terrible as some people say, like some people compare him to a Carroll, and that I don't agree with that. But more often than not, Giroud is static, and that presents a problem to us in the way we play football. Obviously, if you're Giroud, you're now worried because you're thinking, damn, how am I going to get back in this team? And it is a problem for him because I'm not really sure how he gets back in. All right, he was suspended yesterday. But going into the Burnley game, which will be a difficult game, it'll be a game where the pitch is small. We're not going to have a lot of space to run in behind. We're not going to be able to, basically our whole game is going to be dependent on putting pressure on that defense and making the best out of every opportunity. I've heard people say that it's going to be 4-0 and this, that, and the other. I'm not so sure. I think it will be a tight game. I actually think they played pretty well on Monday and they deserved their win. They beat Watford, a Watford team who beat United the other day. And to be perfectly honest, that game, Watford didn't deserve a damn thing out of that game. So, and they played that at Burnley. So, it's these type of things you have to consider. You think to yourself, yeah, this may not be an easy game. I still think we'll win, and I still think it will be 2-0. I just think this will be more of a 2-0 that won't be necessarily like Tuesday. I think it'll be a bit tighter. I think we'll be a little bit more tired because of the way we've been playing football and the way we've adjusted the way we play football lately, due to the fact that we have a Sanchez who harasses the defense. So I think our recent exertions will show in that game. I do expect our quality to shine through in the end. Remember, their main man, Andre Gray, is suspended. So it's hard to see where their goal threat comes from. I know I say that considering they won 3-1 against Watford, but we're not Watford. So I'm going to go for 2-0, but don't be surprised and don't be worried. Let's everybody calm down if we don't blow these people 4-0, because it will be a tricky game. And, and then that's that. So whilst all this wild stuff was happening, yesterday, really the start of the week, you started hearing stories that the Telegraph has stung the England manager. And there was a lot of speculation as to whether or not the England manager was going to be sacked. I wasn't really paying attention to it until Tuesday. These stories started to grow and grow. And then I watched the video. First of all, it was a long video. The first video I saw was about Big Sam talking shit about Gary Neville and Roy Hodgson. Quite frankly, really not saying anything that us lot haven't said in our own private conversations with friends and stuff, talking about the fact that, Roy was really indecisive, and the fact that apparently Gary Neville essentially took over the background and didn't allow Roy to be able to make a decision and probably interfered in proceedings. Don't get me wrong, doesn't look good. If you're the FA, you're thinking, oh, flip. And that would have been bad enough. If it had just been that, it would have got a slap on the wrist, made an apology, it would have been all good. No. There to be extra. So the Telegraph have been staging a bunch of meetings with various managers, not just Big Sam, but allegedly. So they've had meetings with Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, with the Barnsley manager, with the Leeds owner, with Eric Black, the Southampton assistant manager, various different figureheads across the footballing world. Basically, just sensational, headline-grabbing managers that have apparently accepted bungs to be able to. I'm not really sure what the bungs are. I think they're basically to be able to get around FA laws around players and agents and making sure that agents are able to broker deals. And obviously, as the FA dictates, essentially managers are not allowed to be able to accept any money to do any favors for people. It didn't look good. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not the biggest Sam Allardyce fan. I doubt many of you guys are. If you're an Arsenal fan, generally there are certain managers you dislike. Tony Pulis is one. Alan Pardew is another. Martin Jol for obvious reasons. And Sam Allardyce is also another. And I ain't going to lie, I laughed my ass off seeing this big buffoon. And I know I'm big, but I'm going to call him that anyway. This big buffoon just sit there, just arrogantly. And I say arrogantly because let's face it, right? And I'm going to try and say this because I know I'm going to get heat for this, but I don't give a damn. I'm going to say this anyway. If you have a high-profile job like that, and I'll say the same thing even if tomorrow I wake up and Wenger is one of these managers, you will have a high-profile job like the England manager. Supposedly, this is the job you've been working for, waiting for this opportunity to be able to manage the England footballing team. Let's face it, let's be honest, as much as I sometimes laugh at the idea of watching England and things like that, let's be honest here. The England manager job is one of the biggest jobs in the world. No, I don't mean footballing jobs. I mean flat out one of the biggest jobs in the world we have. One of the most high profile, biggest, most lucrative jobs you can have in the world. You have probably one of the 100 biggest jobs in the world, right? I think we can all confidently say that, right? Why on earth would you put yourself in a position to nickel and dime like some Del Boy character? Like, why would you even put yourself in that position? Do you need the extra money that bad? Like, you know, you hear stories about, oh, the Barnsley assistant manager. All right, it's wrong, don't get me wrong. Like, it's wrong to be for any of this stuff to be accepting bungs like that. But let's be real here. If you're someone like the Barnsley manager, assistant manager, mind you, not even the manager, I get it. You know? If you're like Joe Schmo who works in the conference or the footballing league and you're barely making ends meet, or a non-footballing league, I get it. Makes a lot of sense. Like I say, by no means correct, but I get it. You're the England manager, and you felt like it was a good idea. This is not before you got the England manager job. This is while you're the England manager. You thought it'd be a good idea to arrange a side deal for yourself to get around the FA laws. For what reason? Making yourself look like the biggest idiot in the entire... And I'm not going to lie to you, I laughed my ass off. I have zero sympathy for him. Zero. Absolutely zero sympathy for him. And it was inevitable, all the headlines yesterday was about how Sam Allardyce got called up by the FA and they were having talks with the FA. As soon as that happens, they're trying to work out your severance deal. And take it from someone who knows this type of stuff. They are trying to agree your compensation package. A lot of the stories came out yesterday that it was mutual consent. Mutual consent, my ass. The compensation package probably includes Sam Allardyce getting to say that he left as opposed to he was sacked. The man was sacked. Let's not get it twisted. He was sacked. There ain't no way he's walking away from. If he was walking away from the job, he would have quit immediately. Immediately. He ain't waiting for no conversation with the FA. He will see the writings on the wall and he will go. Now, there's one person I've left off that list, and that's Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. I really want to believe. I know he's a former Chelsea guy, and you're probably thinking, why do you feel sorry for him? I've always liked Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, from his Leeds days mainly. I've always liked him. Don't know why. Just always have liked him. And I so badly want to believe he was innocent. He's probably guilty as any of them. This clown was talking about. So they did a TV interview with Jimmy Floyd. Sorry, TV interview. They did the same interview, the same setup interview with Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. And he was talking about how he was going to be paying 35, 40 grand. And apparently this wasn't enough. And then they started talking about a figure of 50 to 55 grand to accept some sort of deal. Now, admittedly, in this edited video, you don't really know what they're talking about. All they're talking about is a figure. And then they happen to mention towards the end, if you could get this player over the line. But you don't really know if the money is in relation to that player. Now, apparently Hasselbank was so distraught yesterday at these allegations that came out and how he's thinking about suing the paper. Now, generally, I always don't pay attention to things like that because I always think to myself, it's a desperate last-minute plea to try and plead your innocence, and you never see light of day of that lawsuit. I desperately want to believe that he's innocent. I don't. I don't deep down. But I hope he is. And it's just, people are acting so shocked. I'm not shocked in the least bit. If you think about it, the Premier League, football in general, is a multi-billion pound business. If you honestly believe that there's not corruption or people accepting backhanders or match fixing, then you are extremely naive to think that things like that aren't happening all the time. These idiots just got caught. That's all. That's all that happened. I don't understand what the surprise is. So, this has made massive headlines, and now, obviously, Sam Allardyce has gone, and now the big question is who's now going to be the England manager. Apparently they've targeted the former Schalke head coach, which I find hilarious because no one has heard of him. I also saw on Twitter that someone said, well, no one's heard of Wenger. This guy ain't Wenger. Let's be real. He ain't Wenger. I guess this is probably their way of hiring someone who's foreign, and when he inevitably fails, they say, see, I told you so. We tried. Let's go back to having an English coach, because English coaches have worked so well. Oh my goodness. And then you have pundits who are so desperate. Oh my gosh, I've never seen so many pundits so desperate for Glenn Hoddle to get a role. And it's not like this same guy who hadn't been given a chance before. I don't like giving Glenn Hoddle any credit because this man is always very fiercely critical of Arsenal. And let's be real, he's a former Spud. So I don't like to give him any credit for anything. The one thing I will say is he did at one point get this team somewhat focused on playing football. And I guess if that's what it takes, just give him the job and let's watch him fail. And then maybe, just maybe, these people will come to their senses and actually get themselves the best coach instead of always focusing on mediocre English coaches. I'm sorry, it has to be said. It has to be said. How the heck are you going to go from Roy Hodgson to Sam Allardyce? Sam Allardyce makes a fool of you, and you think to yourself, oh, I know, I'll go for a coach that hasn't managed in the last 10 years. Oh, yeah, that's clever. It's just ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. The whole thing is an absolute joke. English football looks like a bigger joke than it normally does. And on to the next one. With regards to England managers, it's just about now, where do we go from here? Where, as a nation, do England Football Club go from here? That's the big question. But anyway, that's why I just realized, why did I rant about England? I don't even rant about England, but I just thought to myself, why are people making such a big deal out of this? Oh, shock horror. You know, football's corrupt. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I find it hilarious every time I wake up and I see another manager exposed by the thing. And this is the thing that really makes me laugh. So you go online and you watch some of these little podcasts and you go on Twitter and people are almost pleading and hoping, because one of the stories is that a manager of a lot of football experience is also implicated in this. So obviously, who's the longest serving manager? I typically assume Wenger. Now, don't get me wrong, this time tomorrow, I might look foolish when Wenger's name all of a sudden comes up. But they asked Wenger, and Wenger was just like, come on. I've been in this thing for 20 years. Do you think I'm going to fall for something like that? Even if he does that sort of thing. And he would be extremely greedy at someone who gets paid $8 million a year. But even if he was slipping enough to accept a bug or bung or whatever it is they're fucking calling it, my gosh, there ain't no way he's going to get caught by some idiot reporter. And the stories these reporters spin, I'll tell you, if you need to meet me, first of all, this is what I don't understand. This is another thing I thought about yesterday. Why are they themselves sitting in that position? I'm sending some Joe Smo who's never been seen with me before in public to go to that interview and go represent me. I ain't putting myself in that position. I want to make sure that it ain't some sort of stupid setup, some sort of stupid newspaper that has my ugly mug on there ready for it to make the papers in the morning. No, that ain't going to be me, star. I'm sending someone who don't know me, don't know nothing about, who you don't know any history of me at all. Go there and represent me. Go and pay him in his bank. And then when he says, yeah, he knows Chig still, yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm his representative. When that comes out in the papers, I deny all knowledge of knowing this brother. Prove it. Have you ever seen me with him? He ain't got nothing to do with me. Straight up. Why would you go there and make the deal? Just makes you look foolish. Them kind of things. Anyway, that's me and my ranting done. Anyway, onwards and upwards, on to Burnley. I'm going to do a preview video for that on Friday. Do let me know if you like it. I'm actually going on a road trip this weekend, so I may not even watch the game live. I know, tense times, but I will watch it by the time I do a review video on Sunday. I've got means and ways to do that. Worst comes to worst, I'll watch the damn thing on Match of the Day, but I tend to like watching the full games to give you guys the full picture. Particularly if I don't get to watch games live, I always feel like it's cheating if I watch Match of the Day. So I will have watched the full game by the time I do a review, and I won't do a review until I've watched the full game. So hopefully it should be Sunday, but it could be Monday. Bearing in mind, I've also got Sunday and Monday off work. So, yeah, do wait for that video to come out. If you've got any comments about my videos, if you like them, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down. I know you keyboard warriors tend to do that anyway. If you're on Twitter, please do follow me at Colossal Chig. That's CHIG. If you like the content of the videos and you think to yourself, oh, I might subscribe, just hit that subscribe button. Spread the word, spread the link. Over the next 2 weeks, I noticed you guys seem to like videos where I'm interviewing others. So I'm going to fix that. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to see if I can get Stal back on. Still working out a date with Mems. Mems is the busiest man on YouTube. I'm fairly certain of it. I will get Mems on here at some point. And I'm going to also see if I can get Robbie back. I might even get a Robbie and Stal one. Our episodes tend to go on long, though. So I'm going to try and be controlled. I'm really going to be in moderator mode when I do get them back on. But we're going to see if we can do... Because I want to know what their thoughts are with regards to Big Sam. I know Stel will have a big opinion on that one. So I'm going to see if I can get there, kind of see if I can do a video about them, particularly as I have a couple of days off next week. Why not? Let's get some content out for you guys. So keep an eye on that. And so I'll be Friday, Sunday, and I'll do episode 13 next week, Wednesday. So I hope you guys like it. Stay tuned. Up the Arsenal. Take care. Peace.